In 1991, in the Bay Area of California, there was an improv instructor named Kenn Adams. And Kenn would teach all of his students how to create 60-minute long, entirely improvised plays by using a story structure that he created called
the story spine.
But one day in 1997, a new student entered Kenn's class. Her name was Rebecca Stockley, and she worked at Pixar. Rebecca fell in love with the story spine. She immediately saw the use of it, so much so that she took it back to her colleagues at Pixar, and they fell in love with it too. She used it in her own improv classes that she would teach employees.
The high five story swap. High five, and as in high five.
And the writers and directors started using it, and it eventually became completely ingrained in their writing culture. And it even became one of their top 22 rules of storytelling. And over the next 10 years, Pixar went on an absolutely legendary run with Toy Story 2 and Finding Nemo and Cars and Monsters, Inc. and Ratatouille. Just masters of storytelling. And even they understood that they needed a simple structure to build those beautiful stories on top of. And you can use that structure too. So luckily for you, that's exactly what we're going to talk about in today's episode. Welcome to the Storytelling Lab, where we break down the art and science of storytelling. My name is Bennett. I am your host, and I'm a filmmaker and an author on a quest to understand how we can tell better stories so that we can do better work and make the world a better place. Each episode, I host one of the world's best storytellers to help you understand how to leverage storytelling to increase your sales, deepen your connections, and serve your audiences better. What's up, storytellers? Welcome back to the Storytelling Lab podcast. This is episode 187, and today we're going to talk about the story spine created by my friend Kenn Adams. Now listen, many years ago, in the beginning of the Storytelling Lab, I had Kenn on the show. A friend of mine, Kathy Klotz Guest, was on the show, and she talked about improvisation and storytelling and comedy in the corporate space. And she told me about Kenn and what he had created, so I got him on the show. He was a lovely man, and he came on and talked all about it. If you want to hear from him directly, go back to episode 59. But today I wanted to dive a little bit deeper into the structure of the story spine. With these solo episodes that I'm doing this season, you see, if you go back to episodes 183 and 181, we're talking about different models and formulas and structures that you can use to tell your beautiful stories, right? So this is a great one, the story spine. I want to dive deeper into that. Now, here's the thing. I'm going to tell you the story spine first. I'm going to give you some examples, and then we're going to talk about how you can use it to build your stories. Here's the story spine. It goes like this. It's 8 steps. Once upon a time, there was blank or ... And every day, blank happened. Until one day, blank. And because of that, and because of that, and because of that, until finally, and ever since then. And that's it. That's the structure. You can build any classically structured story on top of that spine, and I'm going to give you some examples. Now, first of all, and you might have missed this one, I used the story spine in my intro to this episode. If you go back and listen to it, you will see that whole arc. All 8 steps are in there. Once upon a time, in 1991, there was an improv instructor named Kenn Adams, and every day, blank. And he used to teach his storytelling students or his improv students how to use this structure, ... But let me give you some more tangible examples with movies that you may already know, so you know the structure and you can kind of see the story spine unfold as I tell them to you. I did a video on TikTok recently about this, and I asked the audience, let me know what movies you'd like to hear. And somebody came back with Goonies. So let's start with that one. That's a good one. If you aren't familiar with that one, that is just a tragedy, and you should go back and watch it immediately. Anyways, if you are familiar, you're a Gen X or millennial like myself, you probably love this movie. Most of us do. Let's get into it. So if we use the story spine and we start with that once upon a time, it would be like this. Once upon a time, there was a group of kids who called themselves the Goonies because they lived in a neighborhood called the Goondocks in Oregon. And every day they spent their time commiserating and brainstorming how they could save their beloved neighborhood from being turned into a golf course. Until one day, in Mikey's attic, they found a treasure map to One-Eyed Willie's lost treasure. And because of that, they set out on an adventure, a treasure hunt, to find the treasure, hoping it would help them save their neighborhood. But because of that, they ran into the Fratelli crime family, who had the same goal. They were looking for the treasure too. And because of that, the Goonies spent all day fleeing and trying to escape the Fratellis, while also working together to avoid booby traps and solve riddles, until finally they found One-Eye Willie's ship with all of the treasure on board, but at the same time as the Fratellis. So they had a standoff, and they were only able to narrowly escape with their lives, save for one small satchel of jewels hidden in Mikey's marble bag. And ever since then, they were able to save their neighborhood, as well as help the authorities lock away the Fratelli crime family. So another movie example I like to use is Rocky. It's a classically structured story. I've used it before, even in this season. Let's look at that. Once upon a time in Philadelphia, there was a low-rent boxer named Rocky Balboa. And every day, they bummed boxers for $50 a day, until one day, he got a call from the heavyweight champ of the world, Apollo Creed, offering him a title shot. So because of that, he had to get a new trainer. And because of that, he started training in new ways and getting stronger and getting more confident. And because of that, he met a girl and fell in love, until finally he went to fight for the title, being the most confident he's ever been mentally and physically. And he didn't win, but he went the distance with the champ, which no other fighter had done before. And ever since then, he was regarded as a top contender, what he thought he could be all along. So those are a couple of examples. And if you go back and listen to the intro, you'll see that too. I want you to practice this. Think about a movie or a novel that you love and try to break it down using this spine. And sometimes it's a little challenging. I've seen people do this in my workshops and they only get to like act 1, right? It's a little challenging to look at a big story and break it down with 8 steps. But that's the point, is you have to understand what is the simple structure. Now, the biggest pushback to any of these structures that we're talking about this season is, yeah, but that's not what makes a story great. It's the emotion, it's the humanness, it's the relatability of the characters. And yes, all of those things are true. Even Kenn Adams said that the story spine is just the beginning. This is just 10 or 15% of the story, but a very important 10 or 15%. Here's a metaphor I want you to think about. When you're building a home, the framing of the house is everything. Now, it's not what makes it a home. Eventually, it's not what makes it comfortable or beautiful to guests coming over for the first time, or makes you and your family feel so comfortable and cozy and relaxing in your living room when you're watching TV. That's not what makes it that, but it is absolutely what makes it a house. It doesn't matter how cool your floors are, what materials you use, or how pretty your curtains are. None of that matters if you don't have the framing. Your house will fall apart. Those things come later. The house, for a house to exist, it has to have the foundation and the frame. We can all agree on that. And then you make it become a beautiful home with all of those other touches. That's the exact same thing with your story. You have to have the frame and the foundation set. And then you add the heart. Then you add the characters. And then you add the rich emotion behind it. That's when you make it colorful and interesting and memorable. But you have to have that foundation first. Now, if we go back and look at why Kenn Adams taught his students and created the story spine, it's because they were doing completely improvised plays, 1-hour plays. Now, it's easy, at least for someone who does improv work or improv comedy. If you've ever seen the show Whose Line Is It Anyway, they throw out an idea, a zany premise, and the comedians have to make a sketch off of that, 30 seconds to a couple of minutes. That's relatively easy because it doesn't matter how wild you go and how, off on a tangent you go. It's just there for the laugh, and you can do that very quickly. But to build a whole play, there has to be some cohesive narrative for the audience to actually enjoy that, because it's one piece. And you still might have to go off on some zany tangent that your fellow actor threw out there, because it's yes and, right? You have to follow the thread. And so he taught his students this so they would understand, I need to start bringing it back to step 3 of 8 or step 7 of 8. Otherwise, it wouldn't be this cohesive, interesting narrative and performance for the audience. So it's the same thing for you. This is a way to keep your story anchored, because if it doesn't have that foundation, it will absolutely fall apart. It will be a loose collection of random events or random scenes, and that is the easiest way to lose the attention of your audience. Everything that we've talked about in this season, in these solo episodes, is the cause and effect chain that is stories. Because of that, and because of that. One thing leads to the next. But what I really love about the story spine is it's not just the shape of the story like we've talked about before. It's not just the ebbs and flows of the but therefore approach of the South Park creators that we talked about a couple of episodes ago. This shows the whole arc, and specifically my favorite two parts of a story, that what I call the two moments of change. One, the inciting incident, which is the change that happens to the character that creates the problem that they go on to solve or attempt to solve throughout the story. And two, the climax, the change that generally happens from within the character to overcome the problem established in the inciting incident. And to be more specific, the inciting incident is until one day, Rebecca Stockley entered Kenn's classroom. And the climax is the until finally. That's the transformation that happens from this journey of overcoming this problem. So we went from Kenn Adams and his status quo every day, of teaching this story structure to his improv students, to this grand transformation of it becoming part of Pixar's 22 Rules of Storytelling. This became really famous in 2011. There was an ex-Google, ex-Pixar employee named Emma Coates, I believe, and she tweeted the 22 Rules of Storytelling. Now it's gone on. I mean, every marketer and writer and storyteller and storytelling guru around the world has regurgitated this. It's a super popular tweet, and so much so that it became widely accepted that this was Pixar's story spine. So I, for one, love to take the opportunity to shout out Kenn Adams, and Kenn is such a sweet individual. He's just happy that people are talking about it. It takes there's no malice, there's no resentment or anything like that. He sees the change that he's had in the world, and it's very, very special to see. But that's why I love this structure so much, because you see Act 1, Act 2, and Act 3, not just like Kurt Vonnegut's shapes or his, ill fortune to good fortune, where you just see kind of the arcs, but you see the sequences, not just the acts, but the sequences. And you see the beginning of Act 1, the beginning of Act 3, you see the whole narrative arc. Now, Pixar is incredible at what they do. That's no news to you. They have some of the most heartfelt and emotional stories that we've ever seen. So some might argue like, yeah, but they're the best of the best. But even they understand the power of this simple storytelling model. And here's the beautiful thing about it. Every story that's told, whether it's a tweet or a LinkedIn post, a book, a movie, a short film, even like a live storytelling competition, all of those have a spine. All of those have a framework. That's the part that you have to understand if you want it to work for people. Can you be entertaining like a sketch improv comedian? Yeah. Can you say something that sparks something in someone? Yeah, maybe. But if you want your story to be compelling, you need the heart, you need the lesson in the transformation, you need all of these things, but you also need this structure where it logically leads to the next part. You can get creative with how you present it, but there are a few things that must be included. That change, that conflict, that growth, that causation from in the middle, from this happened and then that happened, but then this happened, therefore this happened. And it needs that ultimate transformation of the until finally this happened. That's how you get us from point A to point B. That's how you show the change that a story created. And this is an absolutely excellent and simple way for you to understand the framing of your stories. So I want you to get out there, think about the movies and the books that you love, and try to break it down in these 8 steps. Sometimes it can be a lot harder than you think it might be, but afterwards, you will come out of it with such a better understanding of the flow and the structure of a great story. So get out there, start practicing your stories, and I will see you next time on the Storytelling Lab. My name is Rain Bennett. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed that episode, do us a favor and subscribe to the podcast. If you're already a subscriber and you're enjoying the show, give us a review and let us know the value that you've gotten from it. We love to hear from our listeners and learn about the benefits that they're getting from the show. That's what fuels us, and that's what fuels the show. And if you've already subscribed and you've already reviewed it and you think there's someone else that would benefit from listening to this show, please share it with them. The more we grow, the more we can help you grow, and that's what we're here to do. Join us next time on the Storytelling Lab.